アンダーナイトインバース2
Oh, sick! Oh, that was sick. Can we clip that? That was low-key sick. That was a sick Inky moment right there.
Hello everyone, it's your favorite FGC VTuber here. So, I don't know exactly what title is going to be my big clickbaity, but let me explain myself at the start. Of course, my name's GreatestGamer00 here, and I am going to be doing a mini review on Under Night in Birth. Now, disclaimer, I want to get this out the way as much as possible. By the way, there'll be timestamps below if you want to get right away to the review, but I do want to state this right away. This is obviously an early review of the game. I wouldn't consider it a full review, and I'll get into why I wanted to do it early in the first place. But I've been playing fighting games for a really long time, well over 10 years now. I've been playing a lot of video games for way longer, so needless to say, I'm a bit of a slight expert. I do want to actually, eventually in the future, make a little prelude explanation of my background and everything else, because I feel that does matter a lot. This is also going to be my first time doing a review at all, kind of, period, sort of. Especially for a video game, it's not something I normally do, and this is going to be my own format, nothing too special. And I don't plan on doing the most crazy effort. One comes at me for the weirdest things. I want to get into the fact that, why did I exactly make this right? And, so the main review is just, this is geared more towards, like, obviously the average person who's going to play this, and maybe some people lower and above. I'll put into, you know, separate things that I think are subjective and objectively bad, and then, you know, of course, who this might be good for or targeted. So I want to make this as broad as possible, but at the end of the day, this review is mainly for me, right? I want to get my personal thoughts out, you know, but I still want to try to make it as subjective as possible, you know, as any good reviewer would do, right? And first thing, besides the background history, I want to state that, like I said, I've been playing fighting games for years. Like, I'm very good. Like, I'm not trash. So a lot of people who normally do this are either one of two, like people who are like straight beginners are like, oh, you know, you guys seen maybe a couple Under Night reviews, like, oh, I'm new to fighting games, I don't know a lot, and then maybe one or two that are actually like really good, but they're like kind of a niche thing, you know. You don't, 9 times out of 10 it's people who don't really play fighting games or that invested. I am, and I don't suck. This is more so for the lower level people can really get, okay, all right, I see what he's getting at, and then the higher people don't fucking grill me, oh, he's trash, whatever. Like, no, like, here's some clips I can show you. Oh, the reactions, bruh! I am not garbage at all. I actually I'm a master rank in Street Fighter, for God's sakes. I have god tier reactions, as we can clearly know, and I'm top 100 for like Potemkin, Evo, for GG Strive. I've got like at least diamond ranks for all other fighting games. So needless to say, I'm pretty fucking good at this genre. And I want to come at this not just from like, you know, like from a normal standpoint of content, but of course at the fact that I would consider myself probably one of the most qualified people to really review these things. But yeah, there goes enough of my credentials, you know, why and who is this targeted for. Let's actually get into the start of the video. Sorry, it's super long-winded, but I felt I really needed to get out of the way. I want to eventually make a video about that. But anyways, first things first for this review, let's get started on the graphics and the visual of the game. Anyone who shouldn't be that surprised is that Under Night originally came out on the PS3, and the visuals weren't exactly the greatest. It wasn't like the artwork is like super high quality or whatever. Some of you who are art snobs will see exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm talking about from a subjective view. It's not like, you know, the line work was super crazy or whatever. Like, you could tell it was an indie title very hard, but what really stood out about it was just the vision. Like, it was anime. Like, it was super anime. It felt like something indie. Like, they were going for the anime style and they weren't like abashedly ashamed about it. Like, it's almost like it wasn't unique, but you could almost feel the uniqueness coming from it, right? And I am a huge fan of that. And why I'm bringing this up immediately is that the artwork objectively is so much better. Just look at the character portraits. They're so good. Whereas like even in the intro, it was just literally like stills. I mean, it's still kind of the case, and they'll show you some gameplay, but I feel like the intro for this one is much better. Like, there's not even a cap about that. But I do feel that when it comes to a bit of the menu design and even some of the HUD elements, we've regressed, if I'm being quite honest. We've definitely gone back. I know I think this is subjective in a sense, but I do feel like the menu UI in itself has gone backwards. And that's enough about those. But yeah, objectively, the art is better. I could agree. I like a lot of them. I think it does retain a lot of the style, but I feel there is something missing that the old Under Night had, that just had that sort of charm to it. But I don't think it was completely lost with this new visual style that they're going for as far as character portraits and UI. I do believe that as far as the sprites, they're largely the same. I could be wrong, or maybe they could be more definition. They could have redrawn them. I could be wrong on that, but it's not the most important thing. Graphically, this is not super crazy. That's why we're not touching on graphics that much. And move on to the next thing, which is the audio. Now, the audio is great. Fighting games are notorious for having extremely great audio. This should be no surprise to anybody. Really good indicators, like at the sort of a move and an attack. You can tell when someone's about to attack. Very clear, distinct sounds. This game doesn't have a problem where I can't, you know, because some fighting games, is notoriously Mortal Kombat and even some other titles, will have, like, say, a move come a bit after, or the start of it makes it way harder to tell if someone's gonna hit you with an overhead, for example, for those who know what an overhead is. And no, largely retains a lot of the same, you know, as far as hits, you know, CAs and everything. Sounds perfectly fine, no problem. I think the announcer is subjectively not as good as the old one, but objectively perfectly fine, and everything seems really clear. Now, here's where we're getting into something that one of the reasons I'm doing this is the voice acting. I think the voice acting is not that great, and I can't exactly nail why. And what I mean by that is that I don't know what it is. I haven't looked that deep into it, but a lot of the characters don't exactly sound one-to-one. They sound a bit different. I can't tell what it's off. It's one of two things, like, because I mainly use like Enkidu and Akatsuki, and I notice Enkidu largely kind of sounds the same for the most part, but like Akatsuki, for another example, I even noticed with Yuzuriha a bit. Other characters, Carmine largely sounds the same, for example, which is weird. I don't know if they just changed voice actors. Maybe it's the fact that they're going for a higher studio because there's a bigger budget. So maybe I feel maybe that the new studio they're using just doesn't have that sort of sound that the old one had. Like, maybe the old sound, it wasn't perfect by any means, maybe a bit compressed, but maybe the scenario of the compression along with the studio they were using just added to that. I feel that could be a part of it, because it does sound a bit clear in here. So objectively the quality is better, but subjectively, in a lot of senses, for me personally at least, it doesn't sound that great. Like, I can show you an example real quick. I can't get anything clear since you can't really hear clearly thanks to the music and the hit stun and yada yada, so it's not the best example. But what I want to get at is either the change of voice actors. I don't know if they're getting lower paid ones, or maybe they're getting ones who are objectively better. It could be the direction. But here, let me show you an example of what I'm referring to. And I'm going to be talking about Tekken, because I actually noticed that Tekken had a very similar problem, actually, that I am describing currently. And let me show you what I mean. I'll be showing an example of, like, Lars Alexanderson. First of all, this is Lars from Tekken 8. Comparing him to Lars from Tekken 7. I know, sorry, they're not the exact same game, but I want to get something across that's super important. And we're going to be going, like, pretend this is Enkidu from Under Night 2 and Enkidu from Under Night, 1. Alright. You hear that, right? Yes. So, what I want to get, what I don't like about this, I'll write it, like, so you hear how he's doing the noises, right? Now, here's Lars. Just one move. I know they're different moves, but there's a key thing. Now, what I want to get at is obviously the sound design and everything is way better. You hear the ding. Let's even... Amazing. Absolutely amazing, right? And Under Night is kind of the same thing. It's clear, whatever. But what I want to get as the key thing here is when you hear Lars... Codes, yeah. It just doesn't feel like you have that impact. And one of the biggest things is with his dynamic entry from, like, Naruto. You guys know it. He does it, right? You know, it goes, yeah. I know Lars like the back of my hand and heart. And this is why I want to compare it to Enkidu, because this is who I both main. I'm not used to hearing, yeah. I'm used to, yeah. And you can hear it. They're not the same move, but you hear what? See that? That's the key note I am talking about. Like, you can hear, like, there's almost an emphasis on it. Probably hear it in some of the gameplay views. So you understand, like, this, that oomph. And Under Night is lacking that with a lot of the key moves. Like, for the most part, when they're doing their normals, you're fine. But when there's key moves, like, again, that are super iconic, it's just not there. And this is, I think, I think half of it is objective. The other half is subjective. I think that impact, that oomph, is objective. Again, and it's weird. And basically, why Tekken is a good example, I'm noticing a trend, thanks to Tekken, that something's going on in the voice acting industry, especially in Japan, that I think is leading to lower quality in a sense. And I don't know what it is. Like I said, it could be the direction. Who knows? I feel for me, it could be a combination. I mean, for Lars, I could actually obviously look this up. So I could be wrong. Someone feel free. But at the end of the day, the end result, regardless of what it is, whether it's direction of what they're giving to the actors, new booths, or just hiring new people altogether, I do not like the new sound, and this is a huge pet peeve, especially for someone who's so used to the moves for Lars and Enkidu, and in some cases can fuck you up. And even, believe it or not, it can be a detriment to getting into the game. You know, I think having, like, I don't think sound is the end-all be-all, but it's like one of those things where if it's bad, you'll notice it. And if you notice, I didn't say anything objectively really bad as far as the UI, right? I think it's a bit too simple. I think objectively it's very mid. It doesn't go great or lower. But again, the full game isn't out yet, so we can't exactly see like the Chronicles mode, for example, and how their UI looks, right? So yeah, that'll about cover as far as sound. Oh, no, not completely. Let's get into the music, actually. Now, this is another thing. So we're listening to the, you know, this is the soundtrack for Under Night. It's, no one should know. It's amazing. 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10, whatever you think. It's one of the best soundtracks in video game. It's iconic. This one's almost the same problem as the voice acting. They actually did change it, and some of them might sound better or worse, and I think it's very subjective. Music is subjective as hell. So this one, I'm just gonna largely say subjective. What they did is change some of the songs, like they'll add it a bit. And a good example we'll go into, one of my best ones, is we'll go to Merkava. Merkava. Here's his new theme, right? We'll let it play out for a bit. This is largely the same, right? I like the rock, don't get me wrong. So I'm a very, like, I like classical, rock, pop, metal, techno, so I should be as neutral as possible, right? Oh, that's okay. So, okay, now let's listen to the original. Look at how much clearer that sounds. And then here comes the drop. Now, as to whether you like dubstep or not is completely a different thing, right? Now, what I really want to get at is you go listen to the we'll discuss. Look at how clear it is. Sound, like you can almost sing it. There's a meme that Ike Arsenal did. Just listen. It's not clarity, whatever. But I really want to get at is that the new versions sound overproduced. And what do I mean by that, right? Like you hear it in the background, it's nice. It's not bad. Clear. And then, okay, the riff isn't bad. But then you see as it goes, it's not like in sync, the guitar, it doesn't feel as iconic, and then we're gonna switch to the dubstep part, and it kind of just doesn't sound right. Like, give it a minute. Like, you know, it feels, it sticks out too much, whereas with this one, right, it'll go. Like nothing feels like it stands out, and the whole thing what I'm getting with the Under Night's new theme is there's a great video talking about what is it called? Yeah, I should have probably put visuals for this so you guys can tell, but less is more. It went into why Final Fantasy 15 soundtrack was probably not as great, and by the way, it's great. Anyone knows the theme for FF15, it's amazing. Go look it up. Maybe I might post it. Dun, dun. We'll have it play in the background so you guys can see. This is original. And yeah, this is why a lot of modern soundtracks aren't that great. They overproduce. There's too much instruments. Whereas a video game, it makes more sense to have something iconic. Not as many notes. Make it, you know, subtitle and like, da, da, where you can have the main thing be, like, you could sing it, basically. You know, and press, like, buttons and noises. Da, 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 and then here's just the new one, right? Like, you can't really sing it as good. Yeah, there's too much. You know what I'm saying? There's too much things cock blocking. You know, FF15 it has a strong enough tune, but everything else can turn on. I think FF15 is a great example of how to overproduce while still retaining the soul, if that makes sense. Under Night 2, it has a nice guitar solo, right? Sure. But at that point, and the thing is, the solo's great, but I think the way it was put was just not great. And yeah, that'll go into the soundtrack at least. We'll put this in the background. Yeah, so that's already two subjective negatives. I'm not a fan of whatever they're doing with the voice acting, and I'm not a fan of the music. But as far as sound design, I think it's a plus when compared to the other ones. So that's 1, 2. Now we're getting to the content of the game. So, as far as the content goes, obviously I only have access to the demo. All you can have is training mode, whatever. But as far as the training options, I gotta mention right away off the bat, the fact the game actually lets you set training mode to once you start the game is amazing. I seen a tweet about it. So really huge quality of life for us, you know, labbers and sweats, as they say. But the main thing I want to get over is that Under Night is really lacking in content. This is something like, not that much is going to change. This is one of the reasons why I'm doing this review, is that these fighting games just don't change that much, and I'll get into it more when I play the online, is that Street Fighter 6 set a standard on what fighting games honestly really should be, especially a certain price. And I'll end off some notes too as far as price, because it's a whole debacle, right? But what I want to say about Under Night's content is that I'm a huge fan of the story. I actually really like it, and going to the character designs, you know, it's just great. Like, it has a super anime thing, and it subverts it, actually. But when you get into the story, you start realizing it kind of subverts some of these expectations, and it's something that I really absolutely loved about the Under Night story, and I'm really looking forward to how Uniclear is going to progress the story, and I think I'll make that maybe a review on. I'll probably make an update to this, right? But as far as, I'm not seeing anything too crazy with arcade mode story. It'll be okay. I think they're not charging too much for like 40-50, but I don't know. I don't think it's enough. That's just me personally. It's just how I feel. I mean, I'm already a fan, so I'm really looking forward to play it. I mean, I could just easily watch a YouTube video about it, right? And this is, again, as far as content, we discuss, okay, what there's going to be. But let's get into something about the character designs. So let's talk about 2 of the new characters they added. This is important for the story. Like, I like the new dude. New dude's great. Now, something I don't want to say this is subjective. I am not a fan of Kaguya. I think she looks god-awful. She is the epitome of everything I can't stand about some anime. Like, just look at this. Like, look at that. Like, why is that out like that? What is this dress? Like Hilda, it makes sense. It's kind of in the character, right? And even when you meet her IRL, how she's outside of the in-birth bullshit. Like, oh, okay, cool. Makes sense. But, like, just this design is, like, everything I don't like about some anime characters, and it just goes against what I feel Under Night is. Like, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll change my mind once I play the story mode. And here's another thing I want to get about. There are some duds in Under Night. Like, dude, I play this. I don't even remember. Like, I think they maybe vaguely mentioned this chick. I'm like, who is she? She seems really important. I don't like her, and she doesn't seem fun to play against. But the other thing is, yeah, I'm not a fan of Kaguya. I don't like her in the game. I don't like her design. Landrakia and the other dude are way fucking cooler. She's probably the most forgettable character next to Win Bitch. You know, as far as Win Bitch, I think it's fine. She stays in the story. She fits her generic role perfectly fine. You know, it's good to have an NPC in the background. But Kaguya, dude, immaculately forgettable. Because I'm like, who the fuck is this? Whereas with Landrakia and Enkidu, I'm like, one was rumored. He was in the story mode. Whereas Kaguya is just not. I'm not with it. She is a mega dud to me. You know, as far as character and even gameplay, but we won't get into that. We save the best for last. Now, for our next part of the game. Oh, speak of the devil. It's actually gameplay. Now, for those who don't know, how I first actually got into Under Night was I played the PlayStation Plus. It was free for Plus, and I played it, and I immediately got it, and I loved it. Why did I love Under Night? I basically realized it was anime Street Fighter, and a lot of people hear that, and what do we mean by that? So the thing about anime fighters and Street Fighter is that Street Fighter is a very grounded footsies game, and what I mean by that is that you tend to not jump a lot. Jumping's a huge risk. You can't block in the air, for example. Combos aren't longer than 3 hits times, and if they are, it's super, you know, hard and situational depending on your character. You know, very grounded, right, in a sense. Some Mortal Kombat players will know exactly what I'm talking about to a degree. Whereas anime fighters are buck wild as shit. You can jump, do all kinds of crazy shit, air blocking, burst, you know, all buck wild shit. Whereas Under Night's like a good in-between. So if you felt like anime fighters are a bit too fast and buck wild, and maybe Street Fighter was a bit too slow, I feel like games like Under Night are that nice sweet spot. So this is my recommendation for some of you guys. If you want to get into Street Fighter or anime, I think this is a good spot to start, as long as you don't play super higher level people, and that's what we'll get into another thing. But yeah, no, Under Night is just, it feels extremely good. It has very basic, easy combos, what we call the ABCs, and what that is for you newer players is basically you can just press square, triangle, circle, do a special move, repeat, and then that's your basic go-to bread and butter combo that universally applies to everybody, believe it or not. And that's something that I really like. I think Under Night was one of my first fighting games I actually experienced that in. And another thing that I really find fun about Under Night is that you can kind of go a bit buck wild in supers, because in most fighting games, once you do a super, that's it. You cannot do another super, right? In Under Night, you can actually do a thing where you can do a super and then cancel the recovery of it, and then do a combo, and then follow up with another super. Or sometimes you could just do one super and then do another one, right? Like, there's some crazy cancel bullshit. It may be for a bit in depth, but believe it or not, it's something that makes it super cool. Like, especially if you played any other, like, say, arena fighters, normally you can never do a super into another super. Under Night's one of those games that you can. and it does a great well of balancing it. Believe it or not, that's another thing I want to mention is that Under Night for the most part is a very well balanced game. You know, even someone I use, Enkidu, is considered fairly low tier, but he's like the kind of low tier where if you're really good, there's no way you can't beat anybody in this game, even at high level. And that's something that's, I can't understate that. Under Night's one of its biggest strengths. It's how actually well balanced it is. Now, as to how fun it is, like I said, I would say at low level, really fun. It can vary depending on the person, right? Whatever your taste is. But in mid level, probably one of the best, funnest fighting games you can play, in my opinion. It's just anime Street Fighter. You know, if you come from playing other fighting games and you have a base knowledge of how the game works and you just kind of do shit, it's super fun to get into the groove. You can, you know, it blew my mind. Like when I first played this, I thought the supers were sick, the stuff I could do. It just felt like Street Fighter on crack, but not MVC3 style of crack. That's too much crack. But, and again, on top of the music, the characters, you know, like I just really, really like Under Night. It's baseline what it is. But what I will say for those of you who may want to get invested more, like it's not even that hard to get into the mid level in my opinion. So it's not a crazy grind. But getting good is, like, that's what I'll say. It's still a fighting game at the end of the day. Because I'll notice something for me personally. I would consider myself an extremely high level player, right? Probably easily pro. But in Under Night, I'd consider myself very mid. I understand a lot of the base mechanics, but not all of them. And one of my frustrations I want to get with Under Night 2 is that it feels like they might have changed some things. For example, I mean, I could be wrong. I didn't know. Like, for example, in Under Night, something they do is some supers are actually plus. And what plus means is you can still take your turn afterwards. Where in Street Fighter, if you do a super and someone blocks it, it's never your turn. They can punish you. In Under Night, something I did know is that, for example, if you do Stomp with Enkidu or a shield rush thing with Wagner, it's still your turn. You can keep offense. I like that a lot about Under Night. They still kept that. It's something they seem to have got rid of is that some supers don't have invincibility all the way anymore. I don't know how I feel about that. I've gotten cucked a lot of times mid-super. Subjectively, you know, I don't know. It depends, so do know that there are some rules you gotta learn about the game, whatever. But for the most part, gameplay-wise, it feels largely the same. I want to get that. So what I do recommend for you who want to begin into it is I would recommend playing one of the older ones. Get about cheaper. If any of you have a PS3, whip that out, and you have PS Plus, blow that bitch off and play some Under Night and get a good feel for it and see how much you like it. Like if you're not having fun just messing in the training room or even playing the arcade, by the way, I do recommend at least try to do a combo or some of the trials. And if you're not having fun, if the game just doesn't feel amazing like it does to me, maybe the game's not for you. That's how much I can say. Now here's for the last one, for those of you who want to get more into it and invested, is that there's a reason I'm only playing this at mid-level. At high level, the game is extremely boring. It's not a very strong spectator game, and I don't think it ever will be because the combos are way too fucking long. Getting pressured is absolute cancer. Like this is what I mean. If we want to tell how you're playing a high level or maybe above mid, how long are you fucking blocking, dog? It's just absolute cancer. That's why I recommend that this is the kind of game don't get too good at. It will become extremely unfun. You know, the funnest matchup in this game is definitely Enkidu Akatsuki because you actually get to fucking play the game and they gotta, you know, earn their shit. They're probably consider some of the lower tier characters too, but they're some of the coolest ones. But don't let that stop you from doing crazy stuff, right? Like the game's really crazy for experimental to a detriment at a high level, but at low level, absolutely fucking fun. Just do know there is some bullshit. Like maybe early on there is some slight bullshit. You could get over it, right? Because of neutral and stuff. But once people get really good, you know, that shit's over, right? You know. Now let's get into the other component is the online. Now I want to start by saying that the online for Under Night 2 is massively improved compared to the old ones. They are using rollback. Rollback's a whole nother thing. Go check that out, right? There's a great video explaining rollback. I'll pin it in the bottom below. And all you need to know is rollback's a much better version of online. And they added, as you guys know, my biggest pet peeve is choosing your rollback, and it's default by 2. Good job. Thank you very much for that. But anyways, yeah, the online's actually pretty good for the most part. If you're having problems, either they're playing on Wi-Fi, which goes to my first subjective problem. So we have 2 pluses. It's rollback, and you can choose your rollback. That's 2 pluses, subjectively. Negative, there's no Wi-Fi indicator. Not a big fan of that, because anyone doesn't know, Wi-Fi is very unstable. Though for the most part, I'll accept Wi-Fi because I don't play competitive. I would say Wi-Fi only matters if you're above medium difficulty or are looking to play a serious match. That's but if you're a low level or low mid and just are looking to have fun and don't really care, you can play Wi-Fi. It's fine. You know, I'm not a gatekeeper for that. So that's his first fault, is there's no Wi-Fi indicator. Then it might have it in ranked. I think in casual it'll be fine. But what I want to get as far as my online experience is that there was a nice, decent amount of people. Under Night has a very dedicated fan base, a very small one at that. But I found a diverse range of people from my time in the open beta. Some of my favorite ones was against Alondrakia and one of the new characters. And something I noticed that it can be a bit tough for me is that obviously my footsies and ground game and base level of fighting games to suppress everybody. Like, you know, it's just kind of like you can clearly tell that I've gone to tournaments, whereas the other person, like, they're like halfway there, right? But they tend to know the game a bit more than me sometimes, you know, and it makes it very interesting. This is what I like. I think if you're an average mid-level player, or maybe you're like low-level fighting game player, but you really get good at Untitled, you can have a really fun time in this game. And they were good for the most part, except every now and then I would get a match that's just, you know, just not fun. Like I said, I feel this can be fixed if you make the rollback increase by 4 frames. So it's something that can be fixed. I would not consider it the peak, but I'd say it's probably one of the best rollback experiences I've had. Finding matches doesn't take that long either. I think they have good search parameters, but I did enjoy it. But last caveat is that I would say maybe 1/3 of the players base for sure, you will run into a lot of sweats, as some would call them, and they're just not that fun. And this is why I'm gonna get to the point that's also the biggest gripe I have. Besides, like, if you're good, that's fine. I just wouldn't win it back. I won't be salty. It's like, whatever, I don't get to play, that's fine. I don't think we're quite there for online. I'm sorry, I'm a bit all over the place with this one, but yeah, just, you know, it's whatever. So just play someone around your level and you'll be fine. But the last one, I think anyone trying to play this game seriously, I mean, maybe the higher levels will enjoy this more, but the biggest flaw this game has is it has an input reading problem. Like, it just does. And this is one of the most frustrating things I've been noticing with modern fighting games. Absurdity. I'll even maybe probably show you some examples here if I can, but like, I had so many problems, whether it was high, mid, or low level, where I would literally put an input and it would just not come out. The amount of times I didn't get a DP, a counter parry. One time I even picked the Katsuki, I switched, I pressed down religiously. I tweeted about this too, funnily enough, and then press square, so that's a buffer, you know, confirm, so I can get. He stood there and did jab. Nothing is more infuriating than having inputs not be detected, and that's something that really dampened my experience, and where I can only see myself that Untitled, for as much it does have good, the biggest downfall is that its inputs are awful, and I don't know what it is. Something about modern video games, especially fighting games, inputs have gotten worse past the PS3 era, so many rant and tangent. I don't know what it is, and it seems even anime 2D fighters are not exempt from this. I've seen it in Tekken 7. Street Fighter 6 is notorious, and Mortal Kombat, for input problems. Street Fighter 5 had an input delay problem. I don't know what it is. It could be a consequence of making inputs too lenient. By the way, Untitled, it's not exactly the hardest execution fighting game in the world, so. But yeah, I just don't know what it is. Maybe it could be something with the rollback. But even then, I feel that's not correct because it would detect it. I don't know, but this really hampered my experience to the point where I had to put it where only people above 3 bars. And I would only play people below or at my level, that's it. I wouldn't even try to place against people who are higher level than me. I don't mind playing people who are slightly higher level than me if I feel like, okay, no, whatever. But, you know, getting counter hit 6 times in a row because you made a right call every single time is immaculately annoying. And I mean, like, I DP'd, I did counter parry. It's really annoying, and that just really brought it down for me, which is, I think we'll about wrap up this review. And why I did this is that, long story short, maybe not very, but I am disappointed overall with the experience I had with Untitled. Like I said, right off the bat, I think visually it's pretty fine, but I felt it lost a slight bit uniqueness. I think the character select's fine, even art, but like, just picking my character feels great, mostly good. Combos are largely the same for the most part, but I don't like the voice. The music is meh. You know, but the music is something in the background, you forget about it, but it's hard to get into when the character doesn't sound the same and the game starts eating you inputs. It makes me not really want to play, if I'm being quite honest. Just those 2 things. I think the other thing is that I don't really play. I'm not that committed to Untitled, so that's almost like a trifecta. I'm very casual. Like, I'll play with the homies, obviously. But I already have Untitled, Uniclear, and this is where I want to get to the final note that, I personally, if you already have any other Untitled, I don't really recommend this. You know, buy, wait, or for sale. I would recommend either wait or for sale. But I will say this: who do I recommend Untitled to? Obviously, if you're a huge fan, you're gonna get this anyway. So, you know, give a fuck what I listen to, right? But I want to make my voice very clear as to what my biggest gripes are. I'm looking forward to see how Chronicles modes is, right? And I think the price might be a bit too high. I mean, the whole thing about price is we'll get into right at to the end. But if this is your first Untitled, like I said, get a feel for maybe one of the other ones. But the thing about Untitled is I want to get a big caveat and disclaimer is that this game's gonna die. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. It's just gonna drop in population. Nothing has changed. I mean, Melty Blood was hugely praised, has great combat, a lot of things I'm saying with this one, but even better. It had rollback, better rollback actually, probably. I don't know. And that game died within the first month, and I felt really salty. And the thing is, when I played Untitled, here's, you know, about many matches you can get. I did Eunice, the new one. I played it for like about the first week, maybe month, and that's it. I barely ever touched it again. And I think with the demo, I basically went through that cycle all over again. I feel like you could play the open beta and get largely the experience you were looking for. I don't really see this being worth more than $20. Heck, I bought the Uniclear Full Edition on PC for like $4, I think, and I was like, yeah, I still haven't touched it. So it just goes to show you how I'm not exactly that excited to play. If you're new, I would recommend having definitely friends to play it with you, or if you wanna play, like if a lot of it seems really cool and you want to support the developers, definitely get it day one and play as much as you can for the first month, because after that's gonna have a drop off. I think it's gonna do better than the other Under Night did. I give it 3 months before we see a drop off, maybe really slower. Hopefully, like I want to say to someone who actually really likes the game, I want to see better, but do know that when you buy this game, after 1 to 3 months, it's going to be dead. You know, if I'm wrong, cool. But that's a huge thing to let people know. And here's the thing, if the game's not going to be dead, then totally buy it on sale. But if you're going to wait and buy it on sale, my biggest recommendation is 100% have people to play with. Maybe buy one of the other ones on sale, get a good feel for it, get a lot of arcade story, so you can at least be fresh and be mid-level. That's the funnest this game is. Hop online for one of the betas, and you can get your full Under Night experience, and then wait for a sale to play the story mode. That's my personal recommendation. Yeah, I'm very disappointed. I'm not going to buy this day one. Just too many pet peeves I have, and I look at that price and I look out how much time I personally am going to invest. Not worth it. I don't think it's worth $40 for me to put that much into a game I'll play for maybe the first day hard, and then it slowly dwindles extremely hard past that, like first week, whatever, and then within the month, and I just stop immediately caring, you know? And there's just too many fighting games, and that's what it is. That's a whole nother video, but yeah. That's just my thoughts, you know, and we'll round up here, hopefully somewhere around the corner, but, yeah, and when it comes, right now, it's really hard, you know, a lot of people going through economic problems, yada yada, so, you know, I'm just very conscious about my money, and I like to think a lot of people are, and of course, more importantly, if it's fun, and there's nothing you can't get from the other games, right? This is just a really fun game, but there's other fighting games you can get a very similar experience, from a low to a medium level, high level plays on, but it's different, like, dude, to me, 90% of anime fighting games, if I could press square, triangle, circle, quarter, circle, square, triangle, circle, quarter, circle, super, it's the same shit to me. That's just how I personally feel. And this is coming from someone who plays professionally, you know? So to you guys, trust me, you know, or if anything, if I can play multiplayer, play any anime fighting game, come here and then see what you feel about it. But yeah, you know, those are my views. And, yeah, I'm just kind of disappointed. Oh, sorry about that. But yeah, I think visually, it's definitely a step up. Retains a lot of the original. Really stepped up their game. I think the UI is not that great. As far as sound, the bass audio, clear, great, nothing surprising. But the music and the voice actors is a downgrade for me, subjectively. So that's 2 subjectives. And so far, it's a lot of positives, right? But it's like 2-2 or something like that. And as far as content, I think I have to give it a 1. Or 2. We'll give it a 2. Because it's just base fighting game, and they're not charging you too much either. But the story mode really makes up for it, you know. So we'll give it like a 3. A subjective and maybe like a subjective. Or we'll give it objective 2, subjective 1. And as far as gameplay, definitely like a 5. You know, it's a 5. It's largely the same. But we're going to give it... here's what we'll do. Subjective 3, objective 3, and then we're going to have to -1 for the input delay issue, right? And then we'll give it +2 subjective on the online, or objective, my bad. So as far as the online, 2+, -1, and then also -1 on the gameplay because of the input detection system. And hopefully this should give you an idea of what I would rate it. And like I said, this is definitely a wait for sale kind of game, and definitely best with buddies. I mean, it is a good game. I really do like it, but I just feel very disappointed. Honestly, I would say is do some. My biggest recommendation is please. The music is what they can do, right? But do something with whatever's going on with the voices. I don't like it. Or if they can, maybe it's too late. They already did the recording and it's over. And they can't do anything about the I mean, the game's gonna be largely the same, honestly. Like, basically, I got a good sense of what the thing is. And like I said, I know the story mode's probably gonna live up to my expectations. Maybe that might be a separate review. But yeah, that'll round out about my review for Under Night In-Birth 2. Sorry if this is a bit all over the place and long, but I just really wanted to get my thoughts out. You know, and this is my first review. Let me guys, you know, in the comments what you guys think. Please try to be nice, and hopefully you lower level people can appreciate it, and you high level people Please don't come at me with that weird stuff. Like, this is... I'm trying to make my voice as vocal as someone who's a legit Under Night fan and trying to think in the perspective of the average player, right? Not someone who's too low, not someone who's super emoji and just is blind, because we tend to see the problem. People who really love the game just tend to be blind and forgive any and all weaknesses and whatever, right? But the subjective stuff, maybe someone else can overlook it, but as far as the objective stuff, you know... I don't know, just to me, I don't know, just very few games, in my opinion, feel worth more than $20. Just the current state of things, right? You know? And yeah, that's it. And thank you everyone for watching. And remember, every day is great when you're chibi. Feel free to follow my channel. I help teach new people how to get into fighting games, yada yada. Just feel free. You know, I got all kinds of content. Thanks, guys.